Hi guys, and welcome to my Gamesalad tutorial series. And today I'm going to show you how to create a basic platform game. So let's begin. To start off, I will create two new variables. So click on Game and create two new variables, and in this case, two new integers. That's one. That's two. I'm going to call the first one score and leave it set to 0. The next one I'm going to call is dual points. And set that to 1. These two variables will come into play when I'm setting up the score display. Okay, moving on. We create 5 new actors. So select actors and create 5 new actors. I'll name the first one character. The second one, surface. The third, platforms. The fourth, dual. And the fifth, score display. Excellent. Now, the next step is to adjust the physics for each actor. So clicking on character first, I'm going to open up its physics. And within the properties of physics for this actor, I want to make sure that it's set to movable, because this will be the main actor or character that moves in the game. I'm going to set bounciness to 0 and friction to 0. And I'm going to leave density at 1. Clicking on surface, then physics, I'm going to untick movable, set bounciness to 0 and friction to 0. Now, unticking movable is very important when it comes to platforms and surfaces you want your character to interact with, but you don't want them surfaces to move when it collides with that actor. So the settings I selected now for surface, I will share with platforms, dual and score display, because these actors don't need to move during gameplay. So clicking on platforms, I will repeat the process. Dual. And finally, score display. Now, clicking on actor again, I want to separate each actor by a color. You can use an image if you want, but for this simple example, I'll just separate them by different colors. So for the actor, I will change the color to red. For the surface, I shall select a color of, let's say kind of a brownish orange. For the platforms, I will leave as the color white. For the dual, I have a image here that I uploaded, and I'll just simply drag that onto Dual. And finally, score display I will leave as white. Perfect. So that's all the settings changed for all the actors, and now we can move on. The next step is to construct the scene. So first of all, I'll drag my actor onto the scene, and I'll just randomly adjust it. It doesn't matter. Perfect. That's my character. The surface, I will drag it on, and I will just create a quick enclosure to represent my level. Very simple. Perfect. Now we bring in some platforms, and we just randomly resize them. And for this example, I'm just going to copy and paste additional platforms just to speed up the process. Perfect. 3 platforms should be enough. Now I'll drag on the Dual. It's rather big, so I'll resize it. Perfect. And just like the platform, I will copy and duplicate the Dual. And I will just organize the jewels across the level. And I'll place the character around here. And finally, I will bring the score display onto the screen. And I'll just leave it there. Perfect. So just to execute this, that's what my level will look like when I am fully finished. Now, the next step is to set the rules for your actors. So, clicking on character first, I will now construct the rules for this actor. To begin with, I will create the effect of gravity in the game. So, to do this, I will click on the behaviors, and I will scroll down to the behavior accelerate and drag it onto the screen. I will set this to 270, so 270 degrees pointing downwards, and give it an acceleration of 800 and make it relative to the scene. So that means this gravity will have the force of 800 pushing in the direction of 270 degrees, which is down, and it will be relative to the scene, which means anything within this scene will be affected by this gravity. Perfect. And I'll just name this gravity. Now we're going to construct the movement rules for the character. So we can create a new rule, and we will use the key condition. I will select the left key to create the left direction. So when this key is pressed down, please perform this rule. Now we want the character to move in the left direction. To do this, I will drag in change attribute. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select attributes, character, motion, linear velocity, and X. So that means this character will move along the X-axis of my scene. So from left to right. And because it's moving left, I'm going to give it a minus value of 200. Perfect. Now, so when I select the left key on my keyboard, the character will move in the minus 200 degrees across the x-axis. But when I lift my finger off the key, I want my character to stop. So I've added another change attribute, and I will select attributes, attributes, character, motion, linear velocity, x-axis, and set it to 0. So what this rule is saying is, when I hit the left key on my keyboard and it's pressed down, move my character along the x-axis towards the minus values, otherwise leave it as 0 on the axis, which means stop my character. Excellent. And I've named this rule left. Now all I have to do is simply copy this and paste, change my direction to right, name it to right, and simply change a couple of values. Just this value here. I set it to the positive on the x-axis. So when I hit the right key on my keyboard and it's pressed down, move my character in the motion along the x-axis into the positive values. And of course, if my button isn't pressed down, don't move at all across the x-axis. Set it back to 0. So just to show you an example of that, oh wait, I have to first create the rules for collision. Otherwise my character will just fall out of the screen. Perfect. So that's my right and left set, and my gravity. But before I can test this, I have to create the collision rules. So to do this, I drag in collide. I need 2 of them. So for the first collide, bounce when colliding with actor of type, and I select the surface. So this is my surface. So my actor will now collide with that surface. And for the second one, bounce when colliding with actor of type platforms. So now my actor will interact with my platforms. Perfect. And the final rule I will add to this will be the jump effect, because I want my character to jump on the platforms and collect the jewels. So to create the jump effect, it's very similar to creating the left and right effect. But instead of moving along the x-axis, you have to move along the y-axis. So it's very straightforward. Very straightforward. I add a new rule. I use the key condition again, and I'll use the space bar on my keyboard. So when my space bar is pressed down, I will change the attribute, select attributes, character, motion, linear velocity, y-axis, and I'll set it to 500, which means whenever the spacebar is pressed down, please move my character along the y-axis, which is up or down, but into the positive values, so up, at a distance of 500. Additionally, you can add a timer to this rule, which means you can set how long you want your character to exist along the y-axis when you press the spacebar to jump. But for this simple example, I'll just leave it at 500. Excellent. So I'm just going to test the game as it is. And as you can see, the character is affected by gravity. I can move it left and right, and my character can jump. Unfortunately, I have not made my character jump high enough, or I've just made my platforms too high. But I will adjust that. And finally, the final platform. Perfect. And I'll just increase the jump by an extra 50. That's much better. So now you can see the actor trying to jump, and you can see the actor is now jumping along the y-axis with a nice free movement. And because the character is movable, it is actually adjusting itself as it hits or collides with the surface. Now, moving on, we will now select the dual actor. Now for the dual actor, we will use the advanced version of collision in this example. So we will scroll up to the condition collision. This is very similar to the collide condition, but it has a do and else clause to it, which is very important. So to begin with, we will make sure that when the actor overlaps or collides, actor of type, with the character, and I will call this dual. So what it's pretty much saying is, if the character comes in contact with the dual, execute the do clause or the else clause. Now, what we will do is, we will scroll down our behaviors and select change attribute and drag it into the do clause. Now, when the actor collides with the dual, I want to add points to my score. So I'm going to click on the properties of the rule, select attributes, game, and select score. So set game.score, which we created earlier on, and attributes game.score plus dual points. So what this is saying is set game.score by adding game.score with game.dual points. So 1 plus 0. 1 plus 0. And that will become the new value of score. So the more jewels I collect, the more 1 points I collect, that will move into the score and become the current value of score. And this will be displayed later on in the score display. And finally, I want to add a destroy behavior. So after my character collects the jewel, I want it to disappear. So when my character collides with my jewel or actor, set score equal to score plus jewel points and destroy the actor. Perfect. Now, finally, we move on to score display. To do this, we will select display score or display text and drag it onto the screen. Now all we simply want to do is display the current value of game.score. So I'll select attributes, game, and score. But also I want to have a bit of text just to let the gamer know what this is. So I shall create a small bit of text and add 2 dots to create the space between the word, score, and the actual value. Perfect. That should be it. So I'll just execute. And as you can see above, I have my score and it's equal to 0. And if I move my character and collect my jewels, you will see my character is collecting the jewels, the score is going up, and the jewel is being destroyed or it's disappearing when my actor comes in contact with it. And that's it. I'll just reset it again just to show you an example. So I can collect my jewels, kind of, and you can see the jump effect. You can see how the score display doesn't interact with my actor when I jump into it. That's because there is no collision set up for it and it's set to non-movable, just like the platforms and the surface. And that's it. In my next video, I will show you more advanced features you can add to this platform, like sound effects, what type of format you need to create music and sound effects in your game, and some other fun features that I think you will enjoy. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you guys next time.